The petition to strip Jon Jones of his heavyweight title now has 120,000 signatures. 120,000 people took the time out of their day to log into the website, sign the petition just to get him stripped of the belt, and the UFC is not doing anything about it. Tom Aspinall has had the interim belt for almost 2 years now. He's the longest reigning interim champion in UFC history. He's defended his belt more than Jon Jones has. He defended it against a Curtis Blades, who's actually one of the hardest stylistic matchups for him. Jon Jones defended his belt against a 42-year-old Stipe Miocic, who should have not even been in the cage, let alone for the title. Jon Jones is the worst thing to happen to the sport. He's the worst thing to happen to the modern UFC, and he's the worst champion on the roster, maybe in history. The fact that the UFC is enabling Jon Jones and not allowing him to defend this belt, they're letting him not defend this belt, is absurd. Dana White is the worst promoter in the sport. He's the worst promoter in boxing and MMA. He does not care about this sport. He does not care about the promotion. He doesn't care about anything. All he cares about is fucking slap boxing and his boxing promotions that he's doing on the side. The UFC used to do these things. They used to promote like Daniel Cormier versus Jon Jones. We're going to put them face to face. We're going to have them argue. Or they're going to do Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz. This big fight. We're going to have them in the Las Vegas Strip. They're going to be yelling at each other, throwing water bottles at each other. Now literally the entire UFC promotion is just Dana White logging into his Instagram live and he's like, "Yep, so we're going to do Ilya versus Charles for the belt. And we're going to do Hamzat and Dricus. That'll be a good fight. And John, nope, not John. Nope. And that'll be it." He does not give a shit anymore. He is the worst promoter ever. If Dana White actually cared about the sport, they would be promoting fights, they would be stripping Jon Jones, and they would be promoting Tom Aspinall as the greatest heavyweight to ever live. The fastest, biggest, most skilled, scariest man in history is what they should be doing. Dana White should be on talk show hosts every single night talking about Jon Jones, the scariest fighter in history, was afraid to fight this guy. Tom Aspinall, he moves like a lightweight, but he's a heavyweight, and he's bigger than everybody, he's stronger than everyone, he's more skilled, he's throwing up submissions that Volkanovski gets glazed for in his fight with Islam. And Tom Aspinall's doing it at heavyweight. They should be talking about how Tom Aspinall has been training MMA since he was 8 years old with his dad. How he has fights in every single level of mixed martial arts. How he has boxing matches, jiu-jitsu, he has judo matches. They should be talking about how he is the scariest. They should be talking about how he is the shortest average fight time in UFC history. Shortest average fight time in UFC history. He has never had a UFC fight go past the first round. I think maybe the Volkov fight went to the second round, but like 15 seconds in. They should be talking about how his average fight in the UFC has gone 2 minutes and 2 seconds, and that is against the highest level of competition. That is against Volkov. That is against Sergey Pavlovich. That is against Curtis Blades. They should be talking about, yeah, Jon Jones didn't want to fight. This is a bad man. Jon Jones would have been knocked out in the first round. They should be making a stacked card, UFC 321 or UFC 322. They should have like Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane because they need a new, fresh matchup. I understand Cyril Gane's coming off that robbery win over Volkov, but Aspinall's already fought Volkov, so we can't have them rematch. We need a fresh matchup, and we need to stack it. This is what Lucas Tracy was saying. When Sean O'Malley didn't have all that hype, they made UFC 299. It was right before 300. They put Dustin Poirier, Peter Yan. They put all these big fights. Robert Whittaker and Paulo Costa. They put all these big fights on the undercard. And then Sean O'Malley went out and he had that master performance. He became mainstream. Everybody loved him. They loved this walkout song. That is what the UFC needs to do with Tom Aspinall. They need to strip Jon Jones, get rid of him. He can still fight if he wants, just not for the belt. Maybe let's have Alex Pereira move up and fight Jon Jones, and we can have that headline a pay-per-view. That would be one of the biggest fights of the year. Alex Pereira versus Jon Jones. At this point, I understand Jon Jones would just wrestle him down and win, but look, Jon Jones cannot be the heavyweight champion. He is the longest reigning heavyweight champion in UFC history, and he's only defended his belt once. This is the worst thing going on in the sport. Speaking of which, while we're talking about Dana White not being able to promote his own fights, Yair Rodriguez versus Volkanovski is the worst featherweight matchup in UFC history. This fight already happened. Yair Rodriguez didn't deserve it the first time, let alone this time. Yair Rodriguez won a decision over to Josh Emmett. He lost badly to Volkanovski. He got dominated. He got finished in the third round. Lost badly to Volk. Then he lost to Brian Ortega, who lost to Diego Lopez, who lost to Volk. Then he got a win over a 42-year-old UFC debutant from Bellator, Patricio Pitbull, and he barely won. It was a boring decision. Nothing interesting happened except for in the third round. And I don't understand how he could possibly deserve the fight over Movsar Evloev. It doesn't make any sense. Movsar is undefeated. He has wins over Diego Lopez, who just fought for the belt. He has a win over Arnold Allen. He has a win over Aljamain Sterling, who's a former champion. He deserves this matchup. It does more for Volk's legacy than a Yair Rodriguez matchup. The Yair Rodriguez wasn't even one of his best wins when it was Yair in his prime. And now it's an old, washed-up Yair Rodriguez versus an old, washed-up Volk. Nobody wants to see that. We want to see fresh matchups in the division. We want to see people who actually deserve it, not people coming off of one-fight win streaks. It's the same. Why did we give Stipe Miocic a title shot? I understand he's probably the greatest heavyweight of all time. That does not mean he can cut across the interim champion of the division. The reason the UFC gave Tom Aspinall the interim belt is because they were worried that Jon Jones would not defend his belt. Now, Jon isn't defending his belt, and he's still not getting stripped, so we just have an interim and an undisputed champion at the exact same time. Tom Aspinall, probably going to be the heavyweight GOAT. If we look at it, unironically, if we look at Tom Aspinall right now, he's faster than everybody. He's stronger than everybody. He's more skilled than everybody. He has every single physical advantage over Jon Jones. Jon Jones may be more skilled, may be more technical. It doesn't matter. Tom Aspinall is younger. He's going to be faster. He's so much faster on the feet. You watch Jon Jones versus Stipe. Jon Jones is getting tagged up by a 42-year-old Stipe. And you think Tom Aspinall isn't going to be able to go in there and just knock out Jon Jones in the first round? Honestly, I don't even think Jon Jones has that good of a chin. We saw what happened against Dominic Reyes. He got dropped with not even the cleanest right overhand. It was just kind of hit him square on the nose. He dropped, went across the cage. Tom Aspinall would absolutely murk Jon Jones, and we're not giving him a title shot. Right now, what we should be doing, go to Jon Jones. If I was Dana White, go to Jon Jones, say, we're going to have you fight Tom Aspinall at UFC 322. If you don't do it, we're stripping you. Tom Aspinall can go defend the undisputed belt against Curtis Blades. That is all the UFC should be doing. 120,000 fans signed a petition. You wouldn't even think that there's 120,000 hardcore fans of the sport, and yet they're all coming here. They're all signing this petition, and the UFC hasn't even made a statement. You look at the UFC's Instagram page. Every single post. It doesn't matter if it's like a fight night main event. It doesn't matter if it's just some promotion for a fight upcoming. Nobody cares. Not a single comment is about the fight. All the comments are just strip Jon Jones. Tom Aspinall is the real champion. Every single comment is just talking about this problem here. And the UFC doesn't care. They're either not checking their Instagram or they are so diluted away from what the fans of the sport actually want to see that they just don't care. Because Jon Jones, the scariest man alive. Tom Aspinall is if Tom Aspinall, we're wasting his prime. We're wasting the prime of what is possibly the most skilled heavyweight to ever live. Somebody who would give Francis Ngannou his toughest fight, would have given Stipe his toughest fight. Somebody who is fat, he moves like a lightweight, and he weighs 253 pounds in the cage. He weighs more than Jon Jones. He's taller. He's faster. He's quicker. I think he's more skilled at heavyweight because you look at Jon Jones fights against Cyril Gane, against Stipe Miocic, and yes, there's a clear skill advantage between them because he's coming up with that lighter man skill from light heavyweight. I still think Tom Aspinall has the skills to take him down or just knock him out. I think Tom Aspinall's better everywhere against a Jon Jones at heavyweight. So the UFC, they're ruining their promotion. If they actually promoted their fights and if they actually just locked in and focused on, let's give the number one contenders the best matchups. Let's promote all these fights. Let's have interviews with the fighters. Let's start some beef between fighters. Let's do joint interviews like we used to do with Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz. People still make edits of that every day. my brother would kill you. And then we get Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier, or we did Jon Jones versus, um, who was it? Was it Gustafson? I don't remember exactly, but we had all these fighter interviews where they would just argue with each other, and Daniel Cormier is interviewing them. Let's go back to that. That was perfect, but that's what I think about it. I think if the UFC doesn't strip Jon Jones, they're just wasting Tom Aspinall's prime. I think this is also just destroying Jon Jones' legacy. I think up until a year ago, everybody would have considered Jon Jones the GOAT. I think now if Islam gets one more win, people are going to start saying he's the GOAT no matter what. They're going to say, Jon Jones, he was on steroids, he held up the division, he was scared to fight Tom Aspinall. I think he's ruining his legacy, and I don't think he realizes that. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, and see you in the next video.